Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the annual meeting this evening. This is the annual meeting and budget hearing. I am Isaiah Crowe, and I am the current board president. Other board members, please stand up really quick and introduce yourselves.
Cindy Viteen, Vice President. Our staff.
All right, would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now, next order of business. Would you elect a chairperson for the meeting? A motion to elect a chairperson for the meeting.
I will make a motion to have Isaiah Crowe be our chairperson.
I will second that motion.
All right.
I'll third that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, designated clerk, would you still continue to be the Board of Education clerk?
Oh, wait a second.
Oh, wait, can we read?
No, you're stuck with it.
I know.
While he's listening outside the door.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the last annual meeting of October 19th?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, voice vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? State of the school report. At this point, I turn it over to me and Cheryl.
Well, you have some reports from that were created last year. I believe the board looked at them last spring as well in terms of things that are going on, and I would defer to Dale and Vivian if you had any questions about what we're doing in terms of academic things. The one thing I would report on is that, and it came up today, we met with a teachers group, that the decision to, create separate principalships at the two elementary schools has been very positive, and it has allowed Dale to really do a nice job at taking on the curriculum things, and Deb's digging into the assessment data, and those are the kinds of things we're going to work on. I think, we're at this point where we get the budget behind us and move ahead, and now we can focus on some instructional stuff and moving the kids ahead. And then, of course, we know that we'll be looking for a superintendent, be ready for an operational referendum, because we are in the last year of a referendum that gives us some additional tax money that frankly we're going to need. Forecast on the state level has no surprise to anybody. I don't think we should expect much in terms of additional state aids or anything. So it's kind of we're in good shape financially, and Cheryl's going to run through that. And educationally, I think we're in a good spot too moving forward.
Okay, so I'm going to walk through our budget, and I will try to remember to make a reference to your booklet as far as what chart I'm on for what page. But just a reminder, on the back of the booklet, there's a glossary of different terms. So if there's something that I say that you don't know, otherwise just ask and I'll try to explain further. The first chart we're going to look at is from page 8, and this chart
Focus on the front, on top.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little extra.
as far as the whole. What's that?
We got it. We're good.
Yeah, at the bottom, but not the top. Okay, so
Or not so, yeah, just please.
Darn.
So the top portion of this slide, which is the glory portion, it shows the totals for Fund 27, Fund 10, Fund 27, and Fund 50 expenses. And then the middle part of it, we've broken down some of the larger areas of expense. Pulled those out, like athletics, salaries and benefits, which is largest expense of a school district. And then our debt is shown there at the bottom. We have one loan that I'll talk about a little bit more later as well. Then on page 17 in your booklet, we have the proposed budget showing the fund balance, what our revenues are going to be, and what our expenses are going to be. And you'll notice that the revenues and expenses match, so our fund balance is not changing. Okay, that can fluctuate if something comes up and we have to spend more money on an unexpected expense, or different things can change that, but that's our projected budget. Our main funding sources are state and local sources, so the majority of it comes from the state and our own taxpayers. You'll notice that there's an increase in the inter-district payments, and one of the things included in there is the open enrollment payments, which this year has changed in the area of special ed. It used to be that you paid the original, or the regular ed amount plus any expenses. This year they made it a flat $12,000 if it's a special ed student. So there was a change in the way they figure that. Page 19. The revenues and expenses for Fund 21 and Fund 27. The fund balance that's carried forward is in Fund 21. 27 cannot carry a fund balance. So at the end of the year, when all expenses are done, what we do is make a transfer from Fund 10 to cover the rest of the Fund 27 expenses. And you'll see that on the top line of the revenues, the operating transfer in for this year is expected to be $1,037,477. Page 20. This is our debt service fund. And this just summarizes principal and interest payments. We have one loan right now, and it's due to be paid off in March of 2020. Page 21 is a summary of our food service fund, Fund 50. And what we're trying to do is trying to balance this fund and continue to have good food service, which sometimes is a challenge to do. Our goal is to balance this budget, but you'll notice that there is a transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 50, projected at $30,000. You'll notice that last year's was $15,000, this year's is $30,000, but keep in mind that we were short-staffed most of the year last year in food service. Our projected transfer last year was $47,000, and we came in at $15,000. So it can go either way, depending on how the year goes. Here I have the total expenditures, which you'll see is decreasing a little bit for total expenditures from last year to this year. But keep in mind that last year's is inflated a little bit when you look at these numbers because of the planned parking lot, which was planned ahead of time to spend those dollars in last year. And
You lost that, you lost that.
oh, sorry, I don't have a page number. Can you guys see that one? Okay, so for 15-16, $11,455,960. This year, we have them projected at $11,377,034. So there's actually a decrease there of almost 0.7%. But if you were to take out the parking lot for last year, we would still be increasing our regular expenses.
Do you know by how much?
Makes sense. The parking lot was between $800,000 and $900,000.
That last pink page.
Okay, thank you. All right, there. Okay, our equalized value, I know this was brought up at a previous meeting. I'll get to a slide that shows each municipality. And for most of our municipalities, it increased. I think there were 2 that decreased. But the total amount of our equalized value went up by 24 million. So really took a jump from 636 million to 660 million this year. So here's the chart showing each municipality. We had the town of Black Earth, which decreased by 2.75%. And then we had the town of Arena, which went down 1.87%. But overall, our total increased by almost 4%, 3.79%. Page 15. So how are we funded? This year, we are looking at the percentage of aid, which always continues to decrease, and we end up getting more from our taxpayers. So those numbers are very visible. I'm glad you have your books. 83.7% we're looking at from taxpayers and 16.3% in state aid. And we just want to point out our referendum totals. When we're looking at our funding sources, always keep in mind that our referendum dollars are in the total amount that we get from our taxpayers. So we've passed 4 referendums to exceed the revenue limits in the past 8 years to give us the extra monies needed to cover the cost for educating our students. So you'll see from this chart, back in 09-10, it was $575,000. Actually went down a couple of years, and I'm thinking that it was projected that we got more state aid those years. And then, of course, it's been climbing ever since, knowing that we need to keep enough money to educate the best that we can.
It went down to keep the levies
Even?
more stable.
Yeah, there's some one-time monies to do that, right?
Well, it was, if you did the larger amount the second year, it shot up the levy that year like dramatically. But if you did it the year before and then a smaller amount the second year, it kept them steady. And then you just carried the money over from the first year into the second to make up the difference.
Thank you.
So it's hard to see that number, but on the top, this year it's 1875?
825.
825.
Yeah.
So this year, above the revenue caps were $1,825,000. So that gives you an idea of, revenue caps and state aid just are not funding the district, and this is pretty common. This is why you see all these referendums statewide, because, we're just not keeping up, especially coming off the cuts. I just read a thing the other day that, essentially, we've lost about $400 million statewide in state aid over the last 2 years. So that's why you had, I think, 60 or 70 districts go to referendum for operational things. That's what we'll be doing, and if things aren't going to change, that's going to be the number, 1.8. Hopefully it won't be over 2. We're just going to have to do some projections on, given what the state aid might be and what the categorical, they've been dumping in 150 or 200 a kid on a categorical thing, and if they do that again, if we get up, $200 a kid or something increase, that'll take some pressure off that 1.8.
So what's new this year? We've had a lot of projects that went on this summer. We renovated the fax room and the high school science lab here. And then we had a black earth roofing project, a sealant project, which was at multiple sites, and the wireless project. We're still in the process of the wireless project. Right now, we have the wireless to all school devices. And we're still in the process of getting wireless access for staff, students, and guests as far as bring your own devices in. So, the comment was by the end of the year. I took that as the end of December. I'm not sure if that's the end of December. Yeah, we're hoping the end of December was what he meant by the end of the year. So for our budgeted revenues, on page 16, you'll notice the last couple of years, we've received equalization aid, but no special adjustment aid. The special adjustment aid only kicks in when you're less than 85% of the state aid received the previous year. So if we're getting enough state aid to cover 85% of the year before, we don't get any special adjustment aid for this year.
One of the reasons that comes up is, especially in declining enrollment, if all of a sudden you lose 100 kids, then your wealth per child will go up and your state aid will drop. That's how it works. But they don't want you seesawing. We would, in the past, I've had grade levels change by 100 kids. And so you can imagine your state aid goes all over, so they kind of do a smoothing. And that's where the 85% is. They're going to maintain the bottom, even though we would have dropped much lower. Because I remember when I was here a couple of years ago, we had some pretty significant decline in enrollment. And we're over that hump. So the good news is the state did bail us out a little bit with that. So that was helpful.
On page 22, there's an 18-year average of equalized values, tax levies, and mill rates. I just have the last 4 up on the screen. But you'll notice on that slide that the total tax levy this year is increasing, but because of the increase in equalized value, the mill rate is actually decreasing by 1.11%. Every municipality, though, will be impacted differently because of the percentage of each municipality equalized value versus the districts. So it depends on how much of our district is in that municipality. So each municipality may not be affected the same way. Page 18, you'll see a chart of the proposed general fund budget by function. The functions are 6-digit numbers in our account numbers that we use, and the proposed budget is always approved in 2 digits, so 110,000, 120,000. So for Fund 10, we're looking for a total of $10,316,659 for our final proposal for the year. Does anybody have any additional questions?
That one chart that you had with the referendum dollars, it was the chart, is that in our books anywhere?
No, it's not. This one?
Yeah.
Can you see those numbers?
Yeah, kind of. It was just interesting to look at.
Yeah, so from 11-12 to 12-13, it jumped from 175,000 to 675,000.
See, you got bailed out in 13-14 because again, we had that special ed, or we had that special adjustment ate up almost $500,000. So, you know, that's why that, what is that?
725.
That's why that 725 worked that year, because the state came through with that adjustment. Otherwise, that would have been a tough year. But, of course, as that went away, if you remember too, Cheryl, and that side of children really didn't get any the last 2 years. So, you know, basically, that 1.4 is where we really needed to be, and then, you know, the 1.8 is pretty much, well, your inflationary increased staffing costs. You know, a budget this size, 200,000 or 300,000 a year, is probably fairly reasonable when it comes in terms of salaries and benefits and health insurance. So, you know, that's kind of what you have to expect from 10 million probably.
Any other questions?
Where are we on projected enrollments compared to this year's?
Well, this year's numbers were 772, which actually, through the formula, kept us right even at 785. But because there's a 3-year average, next year we're going to be dropping off a 790 number. So if we stay where we are, we're going to go back into that declining enrollment, hold harmless that Randy was talking about. Anything else?
Okay, new business. Okay, resolution 1, authorization, do I have a motion for authorization for adoption of the tax levy?
I will move that we adopt resolution 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you, Tom. Second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to establish the date for the 2017 annual meeting of October 23rd, 2017 at 7 p.m.
So moved. I'll second.
James? Discussion?
Do we set the time at 6:30? Because typically, we always have a conflict with the concert on this night, which is set by the Capitol Conference. And I don't know if that makes a big difference or not, but
Is that usually the third, is it usually the third Monday, the Capitol Conference one?
I just, it seems like there's always a conflict with the concert on this annual meeting night. And typically, we all finish the annual meeting and then go in and watch the end of the concert.
Make it a week before if you want.
Sarah, we moved up the date.
But it's a 7 o'clock time important.
It's like the 16th. 16th, when did I have to change it to the 16th?
What did you say about the 16th?
Like the date, the Monday before is the 16th.
We don't want it that day.
Yeah.
As far as budgeting purposes, we don't get the equalized value and aid until the 15th.
Okay.
So between the 15th and the annual meeting, we have a lot of work to do. 16th would be,
What if we made it at 6?
Concert's always at 7,
So I
so.
have a motion
So-
to move it to 6 o'clock? or-
I will amend my motion to the 23rd at 6 o'clock.
discussion?
Why was it at 7, or was it just for farming? I mean, that, we used to have our board meetings at 8.
It's always been 7.
Okay, well, does anybody think there's any issue with people coming in at 6?
I don't know, ask everybody. Gary, is that an issue?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Discuss any other business which legally may be addressed at the annual meeting. Anybody have any other business to discuss? Discuss, excuse me. All right. Hearing none.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all for coming tonight. Have a good evening. Enjoy the concert. For those who go to the concert. Thank you, Sharon, for coming.
Oh, we're not done.
You're not doing
What that means?
no. Yeah, 5 minutes.
I'm kind of glad we're changing it to 6.
All that works.
One has a 1-year substitute's license that is current.
That gets hard.
Mine does not. And you don't want to have another license that's expensive.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just change it. No, it's okay. I had you come and you told me. That's what.
Eventually,
Okay. All right.
Dale, your person
Yep.
has a current.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I made sure.
What about, sorry, I have no idea. No, you don't.
Is it still up?
I just have to know.
You can stop it for a minute if you like, sorry. I just want people to see me doing this.